Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Game of Thrones episode 6 video. Totally cringeworthy for a number of characters, in really horrifying, amazing ways. New round of the giveaway also starts now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. So here we go. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. Starting with top 7 moments. Number 7, Arya learns to play the game of faces. The last time we saw her, she was just learning to clean the bodies. Now she's starting to wonder what happens after. The Waif teases her with this really interesting story about being the daughter of a lord who killed her stepmother and then fled to join the Faceless Men is actually right out of the books. She really is the daughter of an ancient noble house. They never say which one, but you guys are left to wonder. In the context of the book, she's said to be about 36 years old, which is pretty close to how old Cersei is supposed to be. The reason she appears so young is supposedly because she spends so much time working with poison. It's affected her. The game of faces itself is all about lying, learning to lie convincingly. That's why Jaqen was whipping her, because he didn't believe when Arya was telling her story. Even though she was telling the truth, like she was narrating everything that had happened to her since season 1. It didn't sound real, I guess, to him. I believed her, but Jaqen's a tough nut to crack. It's not until she helps the little girl, lying convincingly, saying, that the water heals her, that the show tells us she's learned the game of faces. That moment felt a little contrived. I mean, that was all about Jaqen realizing that she had learned to play the game of faces. On to number 6. Tyrion tells Jorah his father is dead. This is actually a pretty heartbreaking moment. I love that it actually opened up on him looking at the grayscale. That came right after Jaqen said, the game is never done. I think the way they edited that is just meant to imply that Jorah feels like he can only go forward. He knows he's going to die, so he just has to keep going. Jorah knew that his father was at the wall, though. When he was younger, Jorah's father abdicated his throne so that Jorah could ascend. Obviously, since then, things kind of went to shit for Jorah. He got caught slaving. That's when he entered the services of the crown as a spy on Daenerys. I'd be willing to bet that his father found out about that. But just that look of horror on Jorah's face when he finds out that his father was murdered by his own men, it lets you know that he still cares about him a lot. The show wants us to sympathize with Ser Jorah, even though I think the books paint him in a less sympathetic way. The man's dying, he just wants to serve his Khaleesi. I love the way he and Tyrion argue back and forth. What's going to happen once she becomes queen? How do you know she's going to be a good queen? Targaryens are famously insane. All very good questions. On to number 5, Jaqen takes Arya into the Hall of Faces. As she's walking down, you notice there's like many other corridors branching off, so there's many other levels to the House of Black and White that we haven't seen yet. The Hall of Faces is just like the most spectacular looking one. Seriously, it's like 20, 30 foot high ceilings with just faces piled to the ceiling. Look at how perfect those faces look too. They're just perfectly preserved. They went this far. What I'm hoping is that we actually get to see a faceless person apply a face, like actually get to see it happen. They make it look like magic when Jaqen does it, but it's more of a practical thing. You're literally wearing someone else's face. I know Jaqen made it sound like, you lose your tongue, eyes, like everything about you. Technically, it's really just the face. It's not just as simple as putting a Halloween mask on, but they'll probably spell that out in future episodes. It is both grotesque and amazing. You guys will lose your minds. It'll be great. When he says she's not ready to become a faceless person, but she is ready to become someone new, this is just like her getting ready to start her first mission. What do the faceless people do? They kill people for money. So presumably we're going to get to watch Arya try and go kill someone. On to number 4, Tyrion and Jorah get captured by slavers. We finally found out what Mr. Echo is doing on the show. He's playing one of the slavers that take Tyrion and Jorah. Cut off his cock and sell it. Dwarves' cocks are magical. People pay good money for that stuff. Such a great callback to episode 3 when Tyrion's like, you should rub my cock, I hear it's good luck. That is what you get for being a smartass on Game of Thrones. Somebody count the number of times they said cock in that scene. He just barely manages to save himself and then tries to tell them that Jorah is like one of the best fighters ever so that they won't sell them into common slavery. They'll send them to the fighting pits of Marine where they're trying to go. Just to explain the difference, like if he hadn't have gotten them to believe Jorah is this really great fighter, they would have been sold as common slaves and who knows where they would have ended up. By going to the fighting pits, they're that much closer to Daenerys. He'll be within looking distance of Daenerys and he can say, hey, it's me, Ser Jorah. And remember, Daenerys said no slaves allowed in the fighting pits, so technically Jorah won't be a slave. But now we found out how he ends up in this scene we saw from the season 5 trailer. And he actually is a really good fighter. I mean, he's no Sir Barristan Selmy, but he's pretty close. That comment they made about Ser Jorah being, almost 60, being a little over the hill, was a nice mirror for Arya talking to Jaime saying, when you were whole, this would have been a good fight. Like, yeah, both of these guys, amazing fighters, but not quite in their prime anymore. On to number 3, Jaime and Bronn versus the Sand Snakes. This is so much fun, and it's a bit of a big departure from the book, so just to explain that first. In the books, Arianne Martell convinces Eris Oakhart that they will put Myrcella on the throne and supplant Tommen and Cersei. Myrcella will be the new queen of the kingdom. The Sand Snakes are just part of that. They get caught on the way to King's Landing. Myrcella gets her ear cut off by Darkstar, who isn't a character on the show. Eris Oakhart gets killed by Areo with his giant axe. And the Sand Snakes get put under lock and key. So it's like a failed version of what the Sand Snakes are trying to do now. Ellaria Sand also got captured at the end of this in the episode, so it seems like that's the end of it. So the big changes are, that Ellaria Sand changed for Arianne Martell, Eris Oakhart changed for Bronn and Jaime, and no one died or got their ear chopped off. We still have 4 more episodes, so there's still plenty going on in this Dorne storyline. But it was just one of the best fight scenes we've had in a while. Bronn, amazing fighter. You're pretty good too for such a little girl. And when he punched Tristan out. Such a fancy little boy, does not look like a good fighter. I also love how that moment was preceded by Areo saying, "Yes, I definitely remember how to use my axe. When you were whole, it would have been a good fight." Don't worry if this seemed like an axe tease. I do think we'll get to see him use that sometime this season. It's just like a loaded gun sitting on the table. It's gotta go off at some point. On to number 2, the High Sparrow puts Loras and Marjorie on trial. Cersei has a plot to get rid of the Tyrells. Queen of Thorns isn't having any of it. I love the look that she gave Cersei at the end when they were taken away. There's no way she's going to sit on her butt. She was the mastermind behind getting rid of Joffrey, or at least with Littlefinger's help. Littlefinger also trying to play Cersei against the North. So I think Littlefinger and the Queen of Thorns will form something of an alliance to get rid of Cersei too. But mostly it's the Queen of Thorns that has the motivation to do it. Littlefinger's playing the long con. The Queen of Thorns is trying to get her family out of jail. Maybe it was just me, but it looked like Oliver really enjoyed testifying against Loras. Like, maybe something was promised to him, maybe Cersei offered him gold. Whenever they carried him away, he seemed pretty terrified. And even if he made a bargain with the Faith, he was still accused of being gay with Loras. So the church would try him just like they would try Loras. They give him the same punishment. So if Loras was sentenced to death, so would Oliver. So I don't see why he's so excited. But now we get to see this awesome twisted version of the trial that Tyrion got last season. Whenever we do get to the trial, just look for similarities between the Tyrion trial scenes and, whoever gets put on trial in this season. Remember what the High Sparrow said too. Kings and queens are not above justice. So it doesn't matter who you are. Once you land on their radar, shit goes down. And finally, onto my number 1 WTF moment. Sansa gets married to Ramsay. Say yes to the Winterfell dress. Sansa's dress actually was fairly beautiful, even though this whole scene was just completely horrifying. Both beautiful and terrible. And notice how it started to snow just as the ceremony started. Winter has come. How ominous and appropriate. I just love how the only smile in the house right in this moment is Ramsay. Everyone else either doesn't care, hates it, or is terrified. And the bedding scene just took things to a whole new level. No, Reek, you stay here, you watch. Ramsay had this creepy calm, but then he started to slip into classic Ramsay crazy. You're not lying, are you? That'd be a bad way to start the marriage. I think they did a good job, in that last scene, panning in on Reek's face as he was watching what was happening to Sansa. It's so much more horrifying because you're left to imagine, like your mind fills in the gaps of what's happening with Sansa. It seems pretty clear that they're setting up Reek for some sort of redemptive moment, like he's going to say, enough is enough. I kind of expected him to do it in this scene. So here's my big question for you guys. How long do you think it's going to be before Reek tries to save Sansa? Do you think he's going to try and save Sansa? I just felt like that was what that whole last scene was about, like Reek just being completely horrified. And if you think about it, he remembers his name, he remembered all the words of that wedding ceremony, so he very clearly has some of his mind left, like he hasn't completely turned to mush. The books are a little more hazy on his level of sanity. Like sometimes he had trouble remembering things, like he's so fully become this Reek character. The show just seems like it tuned that down just a little bit, like he's a little closer to Theon than he is to Reek. So I'm just waiting for Reek Bomb to explode all over Ramsay's face. There was so much talk of Dwarf Cock. I was actually kind of hoping that Reek would try to cut Ramsay's off. Like it would be a nice twist on what Ramsay did to Reek. I feel like that would be a nice way to close Ramsay's arc. But he's such an interesting character that the show might not kill him off for a while. That's really the problem with characters like Ramsay. Bad or good, the more interesting you are, the better chance you have for staying on the show. Let's circle back around to Littlefinger real quick too, because he actually said something really important for this northern storyline. Make me Warden of the North if I can get rid of the Boltons. Technically Sansa would be Wardeness of the North now, but don't think that Littlefinger is trying to sell Sansa out. I still think that he cares for her in a really weird way. What he was trying to do was just play King's Landing against the Boltons, because supposedly they're supposed to be helping the Boltons, but if he convinces Cersei that they're double-crossing them, then he can break that alliance. He's just trying to cut the Boltons off from all their support. Wait for Stannis to march in, see how it goes down, and then take down the winner. Don't forget too, Brienne is staying in Wintertown, right near Winterfell, so hopefully we'll get to see how she's going to try and help Sansa. Overall, just a terrifyingly amazing episode. Don't forget though, Q&A is going to post tomorrow. I'll announce the winner of my Q&A. Remember, all you have to do to enter those is just be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here to learn all about the Targaryen restoration that they're doing on the show and some changes from the books. And you can click here for last week's episode. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.